Welcome to Alpha Wolf Trading. Do you know that there's over 12,000 stocks or companies that trade on the OTC? Between the NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange, you have over 7,000 companies. But us as retail investors, we wouldn't know that unless we were researching. Because why? Wall Street focuses on the elite, the big companies. And where the retail investor has their advantage is in small and micro-cap stocks. Why? Because you have the opportunity to speak directly with leadership. That is what this is all about here at Alpha Wolf Trading. We're trying to find the hidden gems, and we interview the executive teams of companies that we think meet the parameters to be those hidden gems. I also want to make sure you understand that this is not a paid-for promotion. I collect no compensation for the interviews I do here. These companies that I interview have been identified as potential opportunities for me and the members of Alpha Wolf Trading to receive a higher than average return on our investment. These companies I have identified either because of a technical setup on a chart, a fundamental change within the organization, new management team, new products, all kinds of different things that actually lead me here. But what do I think is the most important? Leadership. And that is why I do these interviews. I want to understand what drives the person that is leading the charge. I want to feel their passion. I want to understand their vision and the strategy that they're going to use to achieve success. That is what these interviews are for. I want to understand the share structure and the cap table, the size of the TAM, the total addressable market. This is the opportunity to learn all of those things. So sit back and enjoy. And if you learn anything from today's interview, do us a favor. Subscribe to the Alpha Wolf Trading YouTube channel. Today's interview is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Please do not take this as investment advice. Do your own due diligence before investing in any security. Hey everybody, Tim from Alpha Wolf Trading coming at you with a follow-up interview with one of my all-time favorites, Peter Evans from Xtract One, formerly Patriot One. Peter, I love having you back. I think last time we were together, we were standing out in front of this big dome-looking thing that was getting open, and we have since had some pretty good press releases out of Xtract One. I know it's been challenging for me to get a hold of you. I mean, what is this? All of a sudden, at like 11 o'clock at night, I'm getting a text from you from Tokyo. There's some stuff happening, right? I mean,
the business, Tim, first off, it's great to see you again, Tim. I always enjoy these interviews. We always have a lot of fun together, don't we? Whether it was at the NBA con or whether it was standing out in front of the Sphere, that was a fun interview. And I always like that we can kind of be casual and just be us and talk about the business. Things are going very well. And I keep saying to myself, I don't think we could possibly get any busier. And then fast forward 90 more days and we've gotten busier. Yeah, it's funny. We're joking about the text at 11 o'clock at night from Tokyo and other parts of the world. It's been a hell of a ride the last 12 months. It really has. And I love what we do. I love my job. I love what the company's doing. I love the feedback and the positive engagement we're getting with all the customers right now. I've lost count now, half a dozen customers who've come back and bought more and then bought more again. And so they're very, very satisfied with what it is we're doing and how we're doing it. The business has grown unbelievable. And it's funny, Tim, since the last time you and I met, standing on that balcony outside the dome, the Sphere there, the Sphere's actually opened on September 29th. And boy, it was a heck of an opening night. And for those who haven't been inside the Sphere, I tell people that the Sphere compared to other arenas is like LeBron James compared to me playing basketball. Okay. It's just in a whole completely other category than anything else. And we're really pleased to be part of it. What makes me very pleased is you see a lot of tweets saying, boy, the lines are long, but boy, did they move fast. And when you see that kind of stuff on Twitter, that makes us feel very good.
It's funny that you say that because Dana White, UFC, formerly owned the UFC,
Yes.
Wants to have a big Cinco de, I think Cinco de Mayo or Mexican Independence Day, something like that. He wants to have an event at the Sphere, and I mean, he couldn't say enough great things about the Sphere. But one of the first things he said was, "You can get in fast, long lines, but you get in fast, you get out fast."
Yeah.
It's just like that was one of the top things on his list, and I immediately thought of Peter and Xtract One. That's why you can get in there with long lines fast.
Yeah. Well, we're seeing that everywhere we are right now, whether it's at very large amusement parks or very arenas, stadiums, schools, hospitals. It's a funny thing again, since our first interview, Tim, if you remember way back when, and you asked me about the strategy. We set up our strategy with the idea being, let's go and do one thing very, very well. And I've been a student of a gentleman called Jeffrey Moore in his books around how startup companies are very successful. And he talks a lot about being hyper-focused. And so we went after stadiums and arenas first. But over the last 12 months, I feel like almost like someone's tied a rope around my waist and tied it to the bumper of a car, and the car keeps getting faster and faster and faster down the road, and your legs are spinning very fast. We've been pulled into schools, hospitals, all these sort of marketplaces where originally we weren't. It's hospitals, schools, manufacturing, distribution. It's unbelievable what's happening, but if you look what is happening in the nurses' strike that occurred in New York, for example, at the beginning of this year, one of the number one grievances they had during the strike was, you need to protect us at work. And you look at this, the statistics showing the numbers of assaults. I've read various reports; they all have different numbers, but last one I read said a 58% increase year over year in the number of physical assaults against doctors and nurses in hospitals. So no wonder the hospital segment is growing so significantly. And then we see the mass shootings that are occurring in schools. So no wonder the schools who are using their COVID dollars are looking for solutions. And, the market is so big. We have competitors. There's enough to go around. All companies are going to do very, very well here, and different products fit in different spaces. But, where we win, we're winning some very high quality names, and we're winning them versus the competitors. So I'm very pleased with how the business is doing.
So you just finished your fiscal.
Yep.
And we're 3 months into your new fiscal. How are things looking?
Well, it's a great question. Let's talk about the past year. We ended our past year on July 31st, and we announced on earlier in October our results for the year,
which was only like 360 or something percent, right?
Yeah, it's like a little over 360%, almost 400% growth year over year, which that was on top of 240% growth the year over that. And I'm pleased that from 2021 through 2022 through 2023, we kept our operating costs flat, and in fact dropped them by about 6% in this last year. So we've been able to significantly grow the business while dropping our operating expenses. And if you look at our EBITDA, we showed about 25 cents per share EBITDA loss last year. That declined to 9 cents per share, so cutting by 2/3 in a single year. So if you're a student of math and things like that, you start to say, well, this looks like a path to cash flow break even. And we're feeling confident that we have kind of line of sight on how to get there. Now, anything can change because there's so much demand. That car keeps pulling me and the team faster down the road with the rope around our waist. So sometimes you have to invest. And you have to invest in more salespeople, more manufacturing capacity to deal with 400% growth, and hopefully do that again. As we get into this year, so that's the past. It's been a great year. I don't know there's any company on the NASDAQ, the Toronto Stock Exchange, the New York Stock Exchange that grew 400% last year. So we're pleased. looking forward, it's been a good 90 days. And coming back to my my prior comment about just when I thought we couldn't get any faster, we did. And it has been a very healthy first quarter. We've got a great line of sight on second quarter, and I think we're on a trajectory to do the same sort of growth next year. Will it be 300%? Will it be 400%? Will it be 200%? Time will tell. But it's definitely going to be accelerated and aggressive growth, and so we're very pleased with that.
So I know you've had a few hires, right?
Yes.
You've done a few hires, and you did announce that you are now moving internationally, right?
Yes.
With the contract in place, by the way. It wasn't just to open up a shop over there. You actually have an order for 5-something million, right?
Yeah, that's correct. We have multiple orders actually from multiple, very well known, very large, think like Fortune 100 type companies. I've never been a big believer, Tim, in a strategy where people say, let's go international. You drop in 10 sales guys into London or Tokyo or Brussels or whatever, and you say, go sell something. That's a very, very expensive thing to do because it's not just the selling. You've got certifications, you've got tax rules, you've got to set up the business to operate, legally within those countries, support, installation. Each country has got its own certification requirements, which are very, very significant. Heck, we're in one country right now, and we can't even demo it without certain certifications. And so you have to get those things right ahead of time. So my strategy has always been find a very, very large anchor account. Someone that's big enough and significant enough that you can serve incredibly well. So they're ecstatic about working with you. Now, the profitability of that funds your business operations, so you're cash flow positive from day one. You're not sinking money in and losing money every day that you're in country. You're actually generating money every day, and that actually can go to fuel further growth within that country. And then with that anchor, you've got a reference. So you imagine ABC Corp that happens to be a Fortune 50. Everyone in that country is going to know, and everyone's going to walk through your gear on the way into the venue. And everyone's going to see it and they're going to go, we should have this in our location. So it becomes a snowball effect. The last thing you want to do is try and go into a country like the United Kingdom chasing down Billy Bob's Bait and Tackle Shack, right? You want to go chase an iconic name that everyone knows, right, and hopefully one that's got North American presence also, so that you can leverage that as you expand. We've done that very, very successfully. We've got 3 major customers. We announced the value of one of them. And what we're pleased about that is that's for one location. And they've got multiple locations around the globe.
And I think that's fantastic. So, I mean, we've already touched on the fact that sphere, we weren't standing in front of that thing just the last time in 120-degree weather, just for fun.
Yeah, after you walked me all over town in 120-degree weather, yeah.
Yeah, let's see. We and now you've got some big names. You've got some auto plants, in the States. You got a hospital. I mean, there's a lot of, you are not constrained to one specific industry. You are expanding into many different industries very, very quickly.
Yeah, and there's in each market segment, whether it's healthcare, whether it's schools, whether it's manufacturing, I think we've announced 1, maybe 2 in each segment. But I'm comfortable saying that we're successfully landed with a lot of credibility and critical mass, i.e., multiple customers in each segment. Most customers are very reluctant to do press announcements about security. Nobody wants to tip off the bad guys about their security strategies. And so it's oftentimes very challenging to get press releases. But, there are those folks who are very pleased to support us in our growth, such as Centera Healthcare did. They're their largest non-for-profit healthcare organization in the Eastern U.S. Such as Lakewood did. And, I feel for the folks in Lakewood right now. Most people don't realize that's one of the largest Jewish populations outside of Israel. And so their focus on security is second to none. And so to be selected by them, I think, is a very compelling story. But we have more than just one in each segment. We've got multiples in each segment, and we built that critical mass. So I can confidently say we've now landed. What that's done for us as a business, if we did the analysis on the marketplace, just going after arenas and stadiums when we first started was about a $4 billion TAM here in North America. If you take all arenas, all stadiums, all theaters, all live entertainment environments, by expanding to these other TAMs, we're now playing about a $40 billion total market, addressable market. That's just for North America. Expansion globally, we now become a player in about a $135 billion market. Now, having said that, we're going to continue to be very judicious about what we do and stay hyper-focused. We're not going to say yes to every deal. Every deal has to be accretive to the business model, has to be accretive to the revenues, and most importantly, has to be accretive to bottom line profitability to drive to things like cash flow break even faster, right? We're not just going to take a deal because it gets us a place in some country. We're going to take a deal because it becomes an anchor reference that's cash flow positive to the business, as well as provides that referenceability and that anchor in that country.
Dave, what I really love about this is, I don't care what the economy does. I don't care if we go into a recession, don't go into a recession.
Yeah.
Because bottom line is people's security and safety is never going to go away. The need for that, right?
Yeah.
And, I look at what you've done, and let's just say it again, 300 and something % growth. Maybe it was because it didn't hit 400. I don't know. But that in this environment, in this market environment, is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And you've gotten no recognition by Wall Street. So,
yeah, I was going to say, like the stock market is jacked up right now. It's really hard to predict what is going on these days. And, every day when you think you've got some predictability around things, Wall Street surprises you once again.
yeah.
But, so that's why I think, as a business, my primary focus is to focus on the fundamentals, right? Focus on, good installations with happy customers. Focus on growing that referenceability. It fascinates me how many times I had lunch with a chief security officer the other day, and he said, "Oh yeah, I was talking to Joe the other day, and he was telling me about your visit 2 days ago." Like the industry is very tight in those relationships, and you do something well for one, and everyone talks about it. You do something poorly, everyone talks about it. And so we're building our business, high integrity, high referenceability, quality outcomes for our customers, accretive to the business line to driving a lot more profitability, high growth revenues, high growth. Our GP is improving quite rapidly. So I'm very pleased with that as we get more efficiencies in the business. You focus on getting the fundamentals right on a business, you'll always be sustainable. You're not going to die during the middle of a stock market failure, right? You're going to keep on going. And when the stock market gets less jacked up, right, I expect that we'll start to see the proper valuation around our shares.
There's also, and you and I have talked about this before. It's not that you are not aware of the fact that you want to move to a more senior exchange like the NASDAQ. That would be the perfect fit for Xtract One, right?
Exactly.
However, you're not going to make that move without some serious thought and a nice. Let's just say you're not going to make that move. You've got growth, but I mean, I think you and I actually have talked about this before. You want to have the wind in your sails, a very, large, long-term contract where you are comfortable. If you didn't sell another thing for the next 5 years, you're going to be okay, right?
Yeah. Well, I thoroughly hope we sell a lot of stuff in the next 5 years, but not nothing. But I hear what you're saying. If you've got that stability of business, you've got those fundamentals right, you've got the predictability in revenues, the predictability in performance, the predictability in profitability, and all those things that you can start putting very, very good guidance around with a high degree of accuracy. then you get rewarded on the stock market. When you play on the big board like a NASDAQ, if you miss, you can get punished. And the last thing I want to do is create an orphan that's kind of hiding under the chair somewhere on NASDAQ. And there's a lot of companies who get to NASDAQ too fast and they become that. And they flounder around at $2 or $3 until they're delisted. That's not our intent here. Our intent is to build a $100 million, $200 million, $300 million business that just is a juggernaut that keeps on growing, and that has the stability and the predictability that NASDAQ loves us, isn't questioning us.
And so this is, so that's the kind of the catch-22 right now. You have a beautiful business. You have great, because and it is without question, Peter, your leadership, and the vision that you have and your team have, that is what has changed this story, without question.
Yeah,
you're executing. You have broken the long-term downward trend technically, which is it takes something of greater force to break that momentum that you were in for years, which was, now you have broken that, and that is significant. So now the trend is starting. It is still moving from the lower left to the upper right, but the problem is you're not on a senior exchange, so it is difficult for people to find it, right? But all that means is that anybody that's finding it now has a really good head start over everyone else.
Yeah.
Just have to have patience. And guess what? It always takes longer than you think it's going to take. I don't care how obvious the story is. With Wall Street, it always takes longer.
Yeah.
And part of that is because Wall Street likes to either wear you out or scare you out. That's how it works.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not a guy that gets worn out and I don't get scared out because I know the company inside and out. So you're not going to get my shares. You can drive it down. I'm just going to add more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
I look at it the same way. I mean, right now I see us as very undervalued. So it's a great buying opportunity. And the thing that I think about a lot when I think about buying is, think about the future. We have shown a track record every time we put out a milestone or a set of milestones to financial analysts like yourself, those on Wall Street, or whomever. We've always said we're going to do X, we're going to do Y, we're going to do Z. And every single time, it's earlier this last week on Tuesday, I had back-to-back meetings with 8 different analysts. It was fascinating. Every single one of them said the same thing. Every milestone that you put in front of us, Peter, you've beaten. And so now we're showing a history over the last 12 to 18 months to give the confidence to those analysts that what we say we're going to do, we're going to do, or we're going to do better. And so we're trying to establish that brand and that credibility and around that predictability of who we are and what we do. So it's a good story. Again, the market's all, jacked up. 3-4 years ago, 4 years, 5 years ago, the price of the stock was $3 based on irrational exuberance. And then unfortunately COVID hit. And so you had some resetting as a result of COVID, and we had to repivot the company and turn it around. I think we're an incredible turnaround story from where we were 2 years ago.
Unbelievable.
Right. I actually look back, I did this with my team in an internal call this week. And I said, let's stop and pause where we were 12 months ago. There was no strategic partnership with Oakview Group. There was no Madison Square Gardens, right? We're now on the approved list for the NBA, right? There was no Kia, there was no Hyundai, there was no other auto manufacturers, schools, hospitals, and things like that, right? So it's been a heck of a 12 months, and I can almost guarantee the next 12 months is going to be similar or better. Or you and I are going to be having the same conversation, maybe not in front of the Sphere. We'll go do it in front of the Sphere in London next time. How about that, Tim? They've already broken ground on that. And I will be sitting here looking at this and going, wow, there was another great.
What, 15? Was it 15 or more of those, or 17 more? I can't remember.
I can't remember the total they're building. I've heard 12, I've heard 14. But the most fascinating thing about the Sphere is really intelligent design. Really intelligent design.
I have friends that have gone, that have told me straight out, they will never go to another regular concert ever again.
Yeah, it is. It's unbelievable, that environment, and sitting inside it, it's an unbelievable experience. But they built the building in such a way that you can kind of cookie cutter it out in other places. So if Des Moines, Iowa suddenly says we want a sphere, and the math says, yeah, 5,000 person, shoop, there you go, cookie cutter it out, build it, right? Oh, you want one that's 25,000 people, whoop, right? And it's unbelievable architectural and forward thinking, so they can populate these things in any country, anywhere around the world, and wherever they go, we're going to.
Right, right. And all I can tell you is I see articles just about almost every day on the sphere now. I mean,
Yeah,
because people are going, right, and they're having the experience of their life. I mean, it really is that unbelievable to them, and that experience encompasses everything.
yeah,
It's the whole thing. It's long lines, but boy, you get in pretty fast for long lines.
yeah, it is. And again, it completely blew me away how fast. Like when we first opened the very first night, there was a lot of people waiting, and there was always some things to take, to fine tune. Like any environment, you always have to fine tune the operations. You think you've got it mapped out, and all of a sudden people surprise you, and they all come in a side door versus another door. And again, I have to tip my hat to the folks at Madison Square Gardens and the whole Sphere Enterprise. Very bright, very smart people. They've hired some of the best security staff there, and they quickly adjusted and adapted. Second night was even better. Third night was even better. Fourth night was even better. So, that's going to become a fantastic showcase for us in the future, to bring customers, to bring financial analysts, to bring others. So, we're very pleased with it. Other
Yeah.
great things that are happening, as I mentioned, schools are doing very well. Hospitals are doing incredibly well for us. Global expansion is doing very well.
Yeah.
We're looking to double our capacity, manufacturing capacity, and then double it again, because we already see that demand in the pipeline, and having to serve that demand. And so we're building out the supply chain and subcontract manufacturers to be able to do that. Keeping our eye on what the future is and making sure we're prepared for the future. So, I can see a 4x increase in our overall manufacturing capacity over the course of the next 8 to 12 months in order to deal with that demand.
Salespeople. The last time we spoke, your biggest issue is you didn't have enough people to sell, to field all the incoming requests, right? So I have to assume, though, if the economy is slowing down and you're getting layoffs in certain areas, that's making the pool for you to pull some good talent in bigger, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's a great question, Tim, but I'm going to take it in another direction.
Oh,
really good salespeople, they're wired a different way. And these are the kind of people who hate to lose, and they want to be part of something that's really interesting that they believe in and they can sell. There's lots of mediocre sales guys who just take orders. How many more cameras do you want today? The camera industry is uninteresting. How many more X or Ys do you want today? How many servers do you want today? You work for someone like Dell or HP or IBM or whatever. That's uninteresting. For the type A, aggressive, bright, intellectually curious sales guys, the people you want to build a company on, they don't want to sell servers. They don't want to sell camera systems. They want to sell something that's interesting and compelling and has got a great ROI around it, and they can build a story around it and they can sell it. So while there may be more people because of the market who are available because the market is kind of crappy, I don't want average.
Oh, right.
I want those guys who are calling us and saying, "This is awesome. How can I be part of it?" Not the people we find. And so we are building that. But the more important thing, again, with that idea of how do I keep my OpEx relatively flat or my growth of OpEx slower than the growth of the company. So we put a lot of effort into building the product out in a manner that it's out of the box, simple to install. Heck, Tim, I could teach you to install it in about 5 minutes. We put so much effort into making it self-diagnosing. self-managing, these kinds of things. So, literally you open the box, you drop it on the floor, you plug it in, make sure it's the right distance, put on the power button and go. It's like plugging in a toaster these days.
Right.
But you don't have to calibrate it every month like other competitive products, and you don't have to reboot it every single day like other products, and all those sort of annoyances. And so now that we've got it to that point, it's the perfect time to start scaling with partners. So I don't have to have the overhead and the cost of a direct sales organization. We'll still have our sales experts, and we'll still add to that sales expertise, right?
Yep.
They're the pros, they're the wingmen, right? But
yep.
You go find those targeted partners who are very specialized and very good, and they carry like 4 or 5 products on their line card, so they live or die by selling your stuff.
Yep.
And and they own a market. They own K through 12 schools in such and such a state. Yep. Or they own all the hospitals on the eastern seaboard. And you find those targeted partners and you get them enabled. When you have a solution like ours that's out of the box, so their cost of selling and installing and support is negligible, high profit for them. So they, again, I'm building a company that attracts people, attracts partners, attracts investment, not a company where I got to push hard.
Right. Peter, you know what, man? I love talking to you every single time we talk. Listen, I don't want to keep you because look, we've done, I think now this will be our 5th or 6th interview. If you want to know more about Xtract One, Patriot One, go back, watch all the other videos, because in each and every one of them, you'll learn something. But what you learn most is Peter and his team execute. They do what they say they're going to do. And that is, what more can you ask for? You find a great story, you find a compelling story. It's a product that works. This is not smoke and mirrors, people. This is not fluff. This is real. This is a real product with a real company that's growing in a very, very difficult business environment. Fastest interest rate hike cycle in history. Biggest supply chain issue in history. A pandemic. Those are just a few of the things going on. And this company has not just survived, it is thriving.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what else could be said, Peter. I mean, you're doing a bang up job. You haven't been rewarded yet, but I'm not even remotely concerned that it's coming.
Yeah.
I don't know when, but it's coming.
Yeah, it's definitely coming. And we just keep putting up the numbers and keep putting them up and keep putting them up, which the backlog tells me it's happening. And it's just a matter of time. And to your point, we'll keep executing. I enjoy these conversations, Tim, a lot, because we can just let our hair down and have a good conversation. My comment to you as a kind of a wrap-up comment, Tim, and to all your listeners, get on board. The rocket ride is rolling hard and fast, right? And I just don't know if my legs can keep up with the car speeding down the highway as fast as it is. That's why I've got others coming on board to help us run as fast as we can. But we're on a rocket ride, and I defy anyone to find a company that's growing at 300-400% a year.
Peter, when do you report your next the first fiscal quarter?
Great question. I believe it is, if I remember correctly, December 8th. December 8th. We'll be doing it after hours as we do always. And I invite everyone to listen. It's going to be a good story.
So how about this? Why don't you and I mark the calendar? I don't know what day that is, but let's mark the calendar and do a follow-up, just a short one, right after your earnings call.
Whatever that Friday is, like the 9th or so, right? It's either the 8th or the 9th. Whatever that Friday is, we'll be announcing on the Thursday night. So let's you and I schedule something. Send me a calendar invite for that Friday, and we'll knock it out of the park.
All right, sounds good, Peter. Thank you so much for coming in and doing this.
Always a pleasure, Tim. Thanks so much.
Okay, I'm going to shut this off. Thank you for tuning in to another CEO interview here at Alpha Wolf Trading. We had Peter Evans from Xtract One, ticker symbol XTRAF. I hope you enjoyed today's interview, and if you did, do us a favor. Give us a like, how about giving us a share? And while you're at it, why not give us a follow? Until next time, stay safe. Alpha Wolf Trading wishes you the very best of success.